The Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation, RDSF, is a non-profit, non-partisan, and non-governmental organization that engages in charity activities to advance the social and economic well-being of the less privileged through the promotion of sustainable education, mentoring, and skills acquisition. The foundation, founded in 2009, has consistently supported indigent students to achieve their dreams of being educated. The foundation has awarded scholarships to over 160 beneficiaries in over 40 tertiary institutions across Nigeria, and has also assisted 192 young people to develop themselves through skills acquisition and the mentoring program. The foundation has also, within the last few months, increased its commitment to human capacity development and mentoring by organizing more regional scholarships and soft skills training outside Lagos. The organization has celebrated a series of testimonies. In 2016 alone, 6 of the RDSF beneficiaries graduated with a first-class distinction. Some RDSF beneficiaries have also become breadwinners, able to assist others to obtain basic education. Some have also become independent in sponsoring themselves to acquire further degrees and professional qualifications both at home and abroad.
Hello, Rehoboth Foundation is God sent not just to me, but also to the world. I could remember 6 years ago when I got an admission to study accounting at the University of Lagos. I was so confused because I didn't know how to meet up with school fees and all. But at the edge of giving it all up, Rehoboth Foundation came through for me, and today I'm an accounting graduate. I'm really grateful, and I want to say thank you to Rehoboth, and may God bless the work that you do.
My name is Dr. Sandra. I'm from the Federal University of Technology, Akure. I just want to use this medium to say a big thank you to Rehoboth Solid Foundation as a beneficiary for sponsoring me throughout my time in school.
Kenyanga Billy from Kwaiben State, Faculty of Law, University of Jos. I thank Rehoboth Solid Foundation for supporting me for 3 years now. I finished my law degree. I still expect the support for my law school.
I got support from the foundation from my 400 level, critical level, through to my 600 level. I'm very grateful and I'm thankful for all their support from my
man once said that in vain we attempt to build a nation if we do not first build the people. It is common knowledge that the most important resource anywhere in the world is people, human resource. The Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation is doing a great work which I have benefited from. The vision and mission of the Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation, from what I know, are built on that philosophy, that truth, that the most important resource anywhere in the world is people, human resource. Every kind of support should be given to them to continue this great work. Thank you, the Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation.
It has made it easier and possible for me to achieve my dream of becoming medical doctor. May God continue to reward the trustees abundantly.
My name is Obulaye Makonjola, and I'm a PhD student at Southern Methodist University in the United States. I think Rehoboth Dream Studies Foundation is doing an amazing job in helping youth in the nation to achieve their dreams and to fulfill their potential. And they're doing it in a very unique and strategic way by meeting people at the very point of their need and putting them on a place, on a path of realization of their dreams. When I was in the University of Lagos, it was at a point in which I had intense need for financial support, and Rehoboth was there for me at that point, and they believed in me, they believed in my dreams, they believed that I could be somebody in life, and it is rare these days to see something like that, to see that kind of disposition. Essentially, I think the foundation is doing an important life-transforming work, and I am really inspired that they have remained persevering and unrelenting towards this cause.
In 2018, RDSF celebrated the call to bar of 2 of its beneficiaries, one of which was Bar Profsen Okemute. Barrister Prosper's dream was to beat the odds as she is fully hearing impaired. The foundation expanded its scope of operation in 2016 by visiting various tertiary institutions in the country to partner with them to identify and sponsor indigent students. Thinking Aloud magazine. In March 2018, the foundation launched the Thinking Aloud magazine, an educative, entertaining, and informative quarterly publication that covers various life issues through which we disseminate information to improve social values. Rdsf Annual Lecture Series. In August 2018, the foundation organized the maiden edition of its annual lecture series to provide a platform to harness expert opinions from relevant stakeholders on modalities and strategies for improving the quality of education in Nigeria. The foundation also initiated an annual Teachers Excellence Award to recognize teachers who have distilled the spirit of excellence in impartation of knowledge in public secondary schools across the nation.
That's so wonderful.
So much to me. Number one, because I've been recognized for my good work. That's motivation. And number two, just encourage other teachers.
Both mentoring in all aspects.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I want to do a check. Can I see in the chat room if you can hear me? Can I see some people type yes? Can you hear me, please? Type yes if you can hear me. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I would like to welcome you to this webinar today on behalf of the Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation. I welcome everyone to this webinar. I'll quickly give you a brief background of the Rdsf. The foundation was established in 2009 by the founders, Rear Admiral Kende Komolafe retired and Mrs. Bimbo Komolafe. The foundation is managed by a board of trustees made up of 9 distinguished and well-accomplished personalities under the chairmanship of Sir Oladendi Olusoga Joseph, Rear Admiral retired, CON, MNI, and a former governor of Ogun State. All the trustees are people of integrity working together with one purpose: to provide economic empowerment for the less privileged. We achieve this by offering scholarships to indigent students, by mentoring young people, providing opportunities for skills acquisition, and supporting the delivery of education. On behalf of the trustees, I want to appreciate all sponsors, patrons, and volunteers. We acknowledge your financial and moral support. Without your support, we can't do what we do. To everyone who supports Rdsf, we say your donations have changed lives, and your donations will continue to change lives. Thank you so much. We have had these webinars in the past. We have hosted several workshops and webinars in the past. The first workshop was sponsored in 2015 and was organized by a reputable HR company called The Workplace. The foundation sponsored 13 people to attend the workshop. Thereafter, in 2016, Rdsf commenced organizing the workshops herself and held a session for 55 students in Ekiti State. This was followed by 2 more workshops in 2019, with sessions held in Uniben, where 88 students attended, and the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, where 60 students attended. Post-COVID, we started hosting the workshops virtually. Our first virtual webinar was held in May 2020 titled Personal Innovation, Creating a Sense of Urgency. In September 2020, we hosted the second virtual webinar titled Writing a Good Business Proposal. In April 2021, we hosted a third webinar on the subject Fundamentals of Digital Marketing. Our most recent and fourth webinar was in August this year, and the theme was Entrepreneurial Skills, a Bailout for Unemployment. Today, the topic of today's webinar is the role of positive parent-teacher communication in teaching. We will not take too much of your time. Our target is to keep today's event within 1.5 hours, 1.5 hours, but we hope to keep it under 2 hours if maybe the questions and comments extend. This introduction should not take more than 10 minutes. Our guest speaker would have 60 minutes to speak, and we'll give him a break, and then we'll launch a poll. We want your answers to 2 questions. And then we'll go to the comments and question session for 15 minutes, and we'll do a wrap up. So we would not take too much of your time, but we want to assure you that whatever time you spend with us today will be valuable. On behalf of the trustees, on behalf of the chairman of the board of trustees and the other trustees, I say a big thank you to one of our patrons, Commodore Ahmed, the Director of Education of the Nigerian Navy, for supporting this webinar and for sponsoring the star prize of 50,000 Naira. Thank you, sir, for believing in the Rdsf vision and for supporting us to encourage teachers. We also acknowledge one of our trustees who donated 50,000 Naira that will cover the consolation prize for 5 people. The consolation prize will be 10,000 Naira to 5 people. The requirements to qualify for these prizes today, you have to register, and by joining this webinar, you've met the first condition. You register for the webinar, you attend, and you stay to the end of the program, because a survey will be launched at the end of the program, and we expect you to complete that survey. The fourth condition is for you to follow our DSF pages online, our Facebook and our Instagram pages, and then notify us by email that you now follow us. Send us a mail and give us your social media handle with which you're following us. Once you qualify and we find that you've done these 4 things, then you will be part of the draw. I'd like to introduce the webinar now. Rdsf has a mission to educate as many people as we can, giving them an opportunity to be economically empowered. One of the foundation's objectives is to draw attention to issues that can improve the delivery of education to the students that we support. This is why our first annual lecture in 2018 had the theme, Public Education in the 21st Century, a reappraisal of the Nigerian education system since independence. In this light, we are aware that students can get the best when the teachers are well skilled and empowered. Effective communication is essential for every teacher to function well. This is the reason we have chosen this topic today. Our facilitator is well experienced and will share some of his knowledge with us. I would now like to introduce our distinguished speaker, Dr. Barney J Wilson. Dr. Barney Wilson is an experienced educator with more than 30 years of leadership responsibilities in the United States and Nigeria. His experience is centered on student wholesomeness and dedicated to creating state-of-the-art experiential learning experiences where teachers and students blend theory and practice to enhance teaching and learning. His current responsibilities include managing the academic programs for Green Springs Schools, 4 campuses, in a child-centered but cost-effective way. Dr. Wilson currently works as the Deputy Director of Education, Green Springs School, Lagos, Nigeria. Green Springs is one of the leading schools providing international standard education in Nigeria. Dr. Wilson was educated in the United States of America and obtained his doctorate degree in urban educational leadership and community college leadership from Morgan State University, USA. He obtained his master's degree in business administration from Carnegie Mellon University, USA. He obtained his Bachelor of Science degrees in electrical engineering, economics, and mathematics from Carnegie Mellon University, USC. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. The floor is now yours.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well?
You're loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank Mrs. Komalafi, and I also want to thank the Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation for inviting me today for this very important seminar. I'm looking at the number of participants, and there are 92 thus far. And I believe after we finish, we will realize that probably more than 125 or so participants will participate with us today. And so I'm happy to be here. I enjoy what I do. I work for Green Springs School. I'm the Deputy Director of Education. We have 4 campuses, and our goal is to lead by example and to make sure that every child that crosses our threshold is educated and is prepared for the next steps of his or her life. We believe that to whom much is given, much is expected. And the other thing that we believe is our school motto, which is in love, serve one another. In love, serve one another. And so the topic today is very important because it's a topic that requires love and understanding. And so I welcome everyone. I hope that this will be enlightening. I hope that this will be enjoyable. I hope that you'll get something out of it. And ultimately, I hope that you talk about this all of next week and maybe all the way up until Christmas and beyond. And so this time I'd like to share my screen and get started. Okay, can you see my screen? Is it starting to come up?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Okay, let me go back. Okay, I think you should start seeing something. Is that right?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. All right. So let me minimize one thing for myself. Okay, great. So the topic for this discussion and presentation is the role of positive parent-teacher communication in teaching. Okay, good. Okay, so I believe that the timing for this presentation is very important. You know, we're in a time now where anxiety levels are high. People are tense because of COVID-19. They're tense because of the economic situation. There's a general sense of tension and anxiety, whether it's in the workplace or at home, in the church house, in the synagogue, in the mosque. There's tension and anxiety everywhere. Many people are seeking professional help. You know, there's some psychological and professional opportunities that are available to people now more so than ever. Across the world, people are talking about certain things, mental health, wellness, those types of things. So I see myself as a futurist. You know, I live in the present, but I pride myself in being able to kind of see what's coming, try to understand what that's all about, and then try to position the institutions that I work with and work for so that we're successful in the future. So today we'll take a look at where we are now, and then we'll take a possible look at one of the future models that I think has some potential to come. Hopefully not. I'll say that up front because it's not the best model, but things may happen and we may have to get to what I'm going to present. And you know, what is now is important, and what will be is also important. Okay, so let's look at our present realities. I mentioned that we all face together, not only here in Lagos and Nigeria, but all over the world. All of us face COVID-19. But in reality, in my opinion, Nigeria has been spared from a lot of the suffering that we saw in the US, in China, in the UK, in France, in India. So relatively speaking, I think we got off pretty easily here in Nigeria. One of the things we have not been able to escape is the struggling economy. Many businesses have gone out of business. Many schools have shut down. Many workplaces have laid off people. And so everyone is realizing that the prices in the market have gone up and people's purchasing power is not what it used to be. And so it kind of led to a situation of the haves and the have-nots. Now, many would argue that that situation already existed, but certainly now things are ramped up and much worse. Here in Nigeria and all around the world in some places, crime is up. You know, kidnappings are up, petty robberies are up. You know, people are using profanity more. There are more fights, verbal fights, and some physical fights. And so these are all signs, of the times. In addition to all that, if you look at Nigeria, the roads are bad. People are dealing with that. That doesn't help things. It makes things more stressful. When I look at certain corridors like the Lekki Epe Expressway, the roads are really bad, and it's trying. It pushes our nerves. It pushes our tension. It causes us to be more stressful. And on top of that, our networks fluctuate. You know, some of us have Glo, Airtel, MTN, whatever provider you have. We know that there isn't a consistency in the services that are provided. The electricity where we live and where we work is not stable. You know, many people, as you know, depend on generators. Some people, including teachers, go without electrical power all night. And so one of the things that was peculiar to me when I came to Nigeria is the question of why do so many teachers stay in the schoolhouse after work? And the answer is simple. Many of them simply don't have electrical power at home. And many of them don't have networks that work where they live. There are also some global challenges. Travel has been constrained. If you follow the news, CNN and other channels, you'll see that the number of fights on the airlines has increased. People's nerves are bad. Their tensions are flaring. People have fights over whether or not someone's wearing a mask, whether or not someone is coughing and not covering their mouths. So we know that relationships are strained everywhere. And so in reality also, our children are stressed. You know, this is a very abnormal time for children. You know, think about the way things were. Children were very innocent. They could go outside and play. They could, you know, spend days just having fun and smiling. You know, little teeny children in preschool are used to hugging. They're used to being hugged. Having a hug is so very important. All of that's kind of gone away. And so there's some children who maybe have started preschool when COVID started. Maybe now they're in year 1 or year 2, and they've seen, they've experienced, because they don't know any different, what their reality is. And some of them believe that this is reality. In reality, it's not. This is abnormal. And we have to remember that it's abnormal. There have been many disruptions. The parent-teacher relationship has been disrupted. And it's been disrupted in certain ways. Some schools, some of the have schools have been able to go online. And so parents have been able to come into the classroom virtually to see what happens in the classroom, to see what the teacher does all the time. And some would argue that it really is too much information. They're seeing things that they're able to critique. They're seeing things that they can celebrate, but they're also seeing how their child is behaving in class, how that teacher is interacting with the child, how the children are interacting with each other. These are very interesting times. The parent-school relationship has changed. You know, we know that for most of us who are online, if you're a parent, you've been locked out of the school because of COVID-19 regulations. You know, you can drop your child off, but you can't come into the schoolhouse. So many parents who are on this call, you realize that you probably forgot what the classrooms look like. And if your child is in boarding, I'm sure that you're not allowed to go into the boarding house to see your child. So that whole relationship is strained, and we're all dealing with it. So on top of it, there's some good things that have come out. Like normal, there are many opportunities for parents and teachers to communicate. And those opportunities are available daily. And so some of the traditional ways of communicating is by phone, by email, by SMS, etc. We can also communicate, and parents and teachers communicate through the child, through what's in the child's journal, for example, that goes home, the homework journal. But today, things have been added. We're communicating through Zoom, we're communicating through Google Teams, we're Microsoft Teams, we're communicating through Google Meets. So it's a whole new day. But these are all great opportunities to communicate. So let me just do a mic check real quick. Can everyone still hear me clearly?
Yes, Dr. Wilson, we can. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to move along. So I mentioned before that there are the haves and the have-nots, and things certainly have changed quickly. And so discussions at parent meetings have changed. The nature of the discussions has changed. And in these times, we find that some of the things that parents have had, now children need those things. Most parents have a good phone. Most parents have a computer. Most parents have access to some type of connectivity, some type of internet service, whether it's a MiFi or a modem at home, etc. What we found through this period is that many teachers did not have these same resources. A lot of teachers here in Nigeria still don't have a quality computer, a quality phone, a quality amount of data for connectivity. And many schools still don't have those things. There are many schools that don't have computers. They don't have access to the internet. They don't have the learning platforms that are available, like Google Classrooms, programs like Seesaw, things that more privileged schools have. It was a major struggle for schools to go online and to realize the things that were needed to participate online. First of all, teachers needed to have access to the platforms, which meant that the schoolhouse, including Green Springs School and all schools, had to take a look at its backbone network, its computer network, to see how many people could be on the network at one time, and then who has access to the network. I know that we bought many additional access points, and we looked at the campuses, all four, how we could connect them up. And then as the leader of the academic program and a leader who walks around all the time, I've started to take a look at the reality of what teachers had. Some of the computers were very shaky. Some had cracked screens. Some had keys missing on their keyboards, their own computers, not the schools. These are the computers that the teachers owned. And then I started taking a look at even teachers' telephones. Some had iPhones and some had the little teeny phones that you can get pretty cheaply, but it varied. And then, again, looking at the students, every student needed a computer to have access to what we were offering. And so what that meant for parents, many parents had to think about, how am I going to get a child for each and every, how am I going to get a computer for each and every child in my family? Some families had 4 students to send to school. So it's a computer for mom, a computer for dad, and four computers for the students. At first, students were sharing the computers, but then it became very clear to everyone that every single child needed his or her own computer. That was a major expense. And again, some schools went through this and some schools did not. In Nigeria, some schools were able to have continuous education through television. Some were able to have continuous education through the radio. And some students didn't get educated at all, truth be told. And so things are very, very interesting. So what else changed? Again, a lot of schools went online. And for us, for all schools, including the school where I work at, we had to learn very quickly, how do we do this? What software packages are available? How do we connect everyone up? Should we have live lessons? Should we have recorded lessons? Should we have a combination of lessons? What do we do? In addition to that, there were all types of rules and regulations from the government. Students had to be 6 millimeters apart. Desks had to be spaced apart. You had to have directional arrows in the school to show people where to walk. You had to have one set of steps that go up, another set of steps to go down. You had to put in many, many hand washing stations and, disinfected soap dispensers. Some schools went to a day A and a day B plan. First everyone was online, and then when students were allowed to come back to school, we had to figure out again how many students can come back to school because of the spacing requirements, which meant that we had to go to a day A and to a day B. Some students would come in on day A, and those who didn't come in would be online, and some students would be able to come in on day B, and those day A students will be online. So it's all very complicated. And then we learned a lot of new language. We started talking about bubbles. And that was a very, very complicated time for us educators. We had to figure out, first of all, what does it mean? So a bubble basically is you group people, you group teachers and students together, and then they stay together all day long. So for example, students who are in level 1 are in a bubble with their teacher. And so instead of going to the cafeteria and eating with everyone else, maybe that group of students would now eat in the classroom and the food would be brought to them. Instead of going outside and playing, which is a very important thing for students to do, children who were allowed to go outside had to stay in a bubble. So it certainly was not, and certainly still is not, business as usual. No touch. Hopefully as humans, we are touching people. We need to touch. We need that physical contact. Well, in this day and age, because of COVID transmission, touch was limited. And so we learned to elbow bump instead of handshake. We learned to stop hugging, which is abnormal. But these are all signs of the time. Again, I mentioned in the school that there are directional arrows at Green Spring School. For those parents who are allowed to come in, they would see that every corridor, every staircase, every entry and exit point has a way in and a way out. The people who are coming in don't come in communication with those people who are coming out. There's safety signage at all schools everywhere. No entry without mask. Please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, etc. Many, many things were shut down. Students who are fortunate enough to have clubs and electives and sports and excursions, there was a complete end put to all of that because of many, many things. For example, some schools that offer electives have external people who come in to provide those electives. No external people were allowed into the schoolhouse. And so the normal development of children, the child-centered approach, the holistic approach at developing students was all disrupted and remains disrupted to this point. By the way, we have 122 participants on with us at this point, and I think it's going to continue to grow. So before COVID, schools, in particular schools here in Nigeria, were low technology, high touch schools, meaning that things were face to face. The classroom was the classroom. Parents were allowed to come in. People were invited to meetings using email or maybe SMS, but there certainly weren't meetings that were held online. It was face to face. life was great. We didn't realize how simple and wonderful things were. During COVID, some schools had to go to high tech very quickly. High tech meant low touch. So initially it was about putting all learning online and then giving students and parents access to those platforms, teachers teaching either at school or at home, and then broadcasting outwards and being able to communicate two ways, but only through technology. So certainly low touch. And today, some schools are still in what we call hybrid, whereas some students are online, some students are in the classroom. These things, for all teachers who are on board with us for this webinar, you know that this is very stressful to do. Hybrid teaching is very stressful. We learned that it's very hard to teach students who are in the classroom at the same time have students who are online. It's very hard, and it's stressed out teachers all around the world. And so this is the time period of the Great Resignation, the time of disruption. Many teachers left the profession because they didn't know how to deal with things that they had to deal with during this time. And so it's not unique to education. Many people have left many jobs in many different fields because of the times that we're in. In addition to that, there were some additional things going on. The millennials and others were looking for purpose, and people were looking at work-life balance and things like that, trying to make sense of this period of time, which has caused and continues to cause everyone to reflect. So parent-teacher relationships. Parent-teacher relationships traditionally have been very interesting. Sometimes they're very contentious, sometimes they're friendly, sometimes they're just there. But at the root of it all, both parents and teachers have a common interest, and that's the students. And so how were things? Things were probably better in the past than they are now, because we're in this period of stress. How are things now? A lot of the relationships are hybrid. They're virtual. A lot of it is instantaneous. And certainly the relationships, some would argue, are strained. So where might we be going? It could get worse. It could get worse. As a futurist, I'm telling you that right now, I said that Nigeria, I believe, got off pretty easy with this. But we know by listening to the news that the UK and the US and India and other places are starting to see a third wave of COVID. How bad will that get? We don't know. Is there something else that's coming behind it that might even be worse? We don't know. We don't know. Well, we do know that we learned some things from this time period that might help us going forward. And so what really matters? What matters when it comes down to it is our humanity. How do we treat each other? Do we respect each other? Do we have empathy for each other? Can you walk a mile in my shoes? And excuse my measurement system, you can tell by now from my accent, I'm American. So can we walk a mile in each other's shoes? Are we all child-centered? Child-centeredness is an S missing, I apologize. Child-centered. That means that we have something in common that should unite us. Just like the graphic shows, it should unite us, and our focus should be on everything we do should be to the benefit of the children. To have this type of relationship, this type of ongoing, sustainable relationship, it requires love. Love. It requires selflessness. It requires not making a big deal out of everything, not making a federal case out of things that are small, keeping things in perspective. So we need to take a really good look at what do parents want? What do teachers want? So at the end of the day, parents want Most parents want a quality education for their child in a very safe and loving environment. I think we can all agree to that. You know, quality education in a safe and loving place that's nurturing and will allow the child to grow and mature in a special way. And this requires respect. It requires positivity. Parents want something positive to happen. Parents want for the child to be able to participate in special projects. You know, things that parents can brag about, you know, and say, hey, you know, my child designed a volcano that erupts. You know, these types of exciting projects. Parents also love robotics and coding classes and special clubs that they know will benefit their child, but then they can also talk to their friends about. You know, my child is in a robotics club, and the child comes home and can talk, you know, new language. All those things are exciting. Parents really want extracurricular activities and value-added education. What parent does not want their child to participate in a music program? What parent doesn't want their child to have access to an art class? You know, from preschool on, art is important. It's part of our culture. It's part of who we are. What parent doesn't want their child to have a good sports program and to be able to go out and play, to be able to play football, basketball, table tennis, lawn tennis, volleyball, you know, field, track, running? Parents want these things. Some parents want their children to live in boarding, a quality boarding house, a good boarding experience. Not everyone can afford that. Not every school offers it, but it's certainly a great value added. And all parents want their child or their children to eventually have some type of competitive edge, a competitive edge. So what do teachers want? Teachers have what I call a teacher's heart. I'm certainly a teacher. Hopefully you can hear the love and the empathy in my voice. Most teachers are really like me. Teachers want to teach. They want to be in an environment where they have certain academic freedoms to be able to impart knowledge and to be able to have their students learn. Teachers enjoy watching their students grow. That's the heart of a teacher. Teachers are naturally selfless people. A teacher will give of his or her own money to buy things to fix up the classroom, to buy some special tools and equipment and materials for the class. So a teacher's heart is a naturally giving heart, a true teacher. Teachers also don't like to be undermined. You know, they don't like to be micromanaged. They don't like for someone to think that, you know, that they can teach better than the teacher can teach. A teacher is a professional. You know, it's a noble profession. I would argue that teaching is the noblest profession. I would argue that teaching is the #1 profession. I can't think of any of the other professions that are more important than teaching. Teachers also want parents to be respectful of them and to respect their office. So although during COVID, parents were allowed to come into the teacher's office, the classroom is the teacher's office, and see the day-to-day operation of the office, the classroom, teachers want parents to be respectful of who they are. And if something goes wrong, no teacher wants a parent to skip over them and suddenly go to the vice principal or the principal or the head of school. You know, those are the things that really agitate teachers. Teachers also want resources, you know, to be able to teach. And so positive connections are needed. The theme for our school this year is making positive connections, #learning redefined. And it's very deep, making positive connections. So we realize that truly in education, it's all about relationships. There's a preacher in America, in Maryland, where I'm from, who says, it's all about relationships or it ain't about nothing. It's all about relationships or it ain't about nothing. That's very, very powerful. So in these positive relationships, in these roles that teachers and parents play, sometimes it feels like they're best friends. You know, sometimes it doesn't feel like they're best friends. It should ideally be a friendly relationship. No one's saying that anyone needs to be their bestie. You don't need a best friend. You need to have a friendly relationship, because after all, while your child is with the teacher is a parent in loco parentis, which means that they're the parent representing you while you're not there. They're the doctor, they're the police. They carry all these roles while they're teaching. They're the nurturer, the provider, all those things. And so adversarial, contentious relationships don't help. They don't help. They just make things worse. A teacher has a whole lot to do. And so to have to do everything that needs to be done and to also have to deal with a contentious relationship really doesn't help the partnership. And it should be a partnership, a parent, teacher, student, and administration partnership. We know that through COVID, some parents who were allowed access to the classrooms were what I call silent spectators. They were there just like looking. Some were looking and celebrating, some were looking ready to criticize. It wasn't very helpful. But those who were looking saw what teachers do, and many, many marveled and said, wow, I thought that I understood what a teacher does, and now I'm getting a look at it, and it's a lot. How does a teacher manage 20-some children? How does a teacher differentiate instruction? How does a teacher know what this child is good at and what this child's learning gap is and how to fill that void? How does a teacher walk around? It's all pretty intriguing if you're not in that environment. But most of all, teachers are in loco parentis. They are the parents away from home, and parents trust teachers to teach. So the parent-teacher relationship, you know, every year, a child hopefully will progress to the next grade level. Although there's some schools that retain students for the student's benefit so that the student can get additional skills to be able to be stronger at the next level. So every year at the beginning of the school session, there's a lot of anxiety. Parents are thinking, well, who's my teacher going to be? Who's my child's teacher going to be? That initial meeting is a point of anxiety for the teacher as well as the parent. It's first impressions. And we know that sometimes first impressions are lasting. But what do people want in a relationship? We want consistency over time. Teachers are under pressure, parents are under pressure, which means that the relationship can be under pressure. What would help to make things better? Truthfulness, transparency, openness, clear communication. Those things make things better. And so there's a way of looking at people. So there are these management science theories. There's theory X, which says that most people are nice people. They're good-hearted, they're wholesome. Theory X. Theory Y, so someone who's a theory Y thinker is someone who suspects everyone. It says people have an agenda. People are not transparent. People are not truthful. So that would be a theory Y type person. So in reality, there's theory Z. People are people. Sometimes people are good. Sometimes people are not good. Sometimes people are friendly. Sometimes people are not friendly. It really comes down sometimes to the situation. A truly good person is good most of the time. No one is perfect. So people really are people, but it takes two or more people to have a relationship, and both need to want it. So there's some realities. Both parents and teachers gossip. Both parents and teachers gossip. So what do they talk about? What do they gossip about? Sometimes it's the issue of the day. You know, it could be a school that has some COVID cases. And, you know, one person tells another person, and it's the topic of the day. Sometimes parents and teachers gossip about special treatment that's received. So a teacher might receive some type of special treatment from a parent, and then the teacher will brag about it. You know, so-and-so gave me something. You know, some of it's not allowed by the school, right? But that happens. Sometimes parents will brag about the special treatment that the child was given from a teacher. So we know that people talk. Parents and teachers talk about how discipline is handled, okay? Teachers might talk about how discipline is handled at home, and they may also talk about how discipline is handled in the schoolhouse. Parents talk about what their perception of the school's seriousness when it comes to disciplining students. There's some schools that flog, there's some schools that don't. You know, Green Springs School doesn't flog. It has a positive behavior plan to be able to handle discipline. But the parents talk about that. And so on both sides, on the parent side and the teacher side, everyone should kind of watch what they say. Because you tell one person something, one person tells two people tell four people, and that's the way it is. People also talk about how someone dresses. Okay, so today I have on a very friendly tie. I don't know if you can see this or not. It's like all hands on deck type of tie. You know, it's a friendly tie. People talk about how people dress. If a teacher dresses in a shabby way, parents will talk about that teacher. If a teacher dresses too sharply, parents might talk about that teacher. If a teacher or a parent is dressing in a way that's calling out for attention, both parents and teachers will talk. Through this talk, spouses are also listening. A wife might be listening to a husband talk about a teacher, might be looking at his or her body language, eye contact, verbal cues. All these things can cause a lot of confusion. Spouses also look and listen. Sometimes in the schoolhouse, we don't see the fathers much, but if there's a major issue, we see the father based on talking, based on perception. And so we know that communication can be strained or can be very, very positive. So what's important? It's important to set some boundaries. It's important for both teachers and parents to be appropriate. Minimize gossip. Minimize gossip about yourself. You know, there's some teachers and parents who talk a whole lot about themselves. We want to minimize that because we want to keep the focus on the children. There are parents and prayerfully not many teachers who talk about other children. It's not healthy. It's not, unless you're saying something positive that uplifts everyone. Talking about someone else's child, whether you're a parent or a teacher, doesn't help if it's negative talk. People talk about other parents. Parents talk about other parents. Teachers talk about parents. Parents talk about each other. We want to minimize that. Teachers and parents talk about the school. Hopefully, the things that are said are true. Hopefully, for the most part, they are uplifting because those things will help. If it's true and it's negative, then it does need to be addressed, so the talk will help. Parents and teachers both talk about school leadership. You know, I'm not naive. I believe that people have a perception about my leadership as a school leader. Hopefully it's a good perception, but people talk. Both teachers and parents talk about other schools. Through COVID, one of the things that schools experienced was Why are you doing this? The other school is not doing that. Why are you charging this? The other school is not charging us for that. Why don't you have the internet? Your school right next to you has the internet. All this thing is talk, 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 talk. People talk about the Ministry of Education. You know, they talk about the Ministry of Education, this, that, and the other. And so again, unless it's uplifting talk, it really doesn't help the situation much, and it doesn't really add to the positive nature of the relationships. And so again, boundaries need to be set. So what kind of boundaries? The availability of each person needs to have some boundaries. We know that parents are available. We know that teachers are available. It should be a healthy balance of when you're available, when you're not available. Again, look at these things: personal boundaries, emotional boundaries, mental boundaries, material boundaries, physical boundaries, spiritual boundaries. If, for example, you are of a certain religion, you shouldn't try to force your religion into the schoolhouse and you know, with certain practices that are very unique to your religion. Physical boundaries, respecting each other's space, you know, not getting in anyone's face in a conversation, respecting physical space. Material boundaries, not offering bribes, not offering gifts that are inappropriate. You know, too much is too much. Sometimes parents may try to buy favoritism by providing gifts. And many times it's not appropriate. Teachers need to set a boundary with the types of gifts that they accept, because some gifts are simply bribes towards favorable treatment. Resources. Teachers, who I already mentioned are selfless people, need to even set a boundary for themselves. Some teachers will give all of their money to provide for the students, and then they have no money. And so resource boundaries. Favoritism. There really shouldn't be any favoritism in the schoolhouse. A teacher should not have favorite students. Now, it's human nature to be biased to a certain extent, but when favoritism goes too far, we know it causes problems. And sometimes teachers are said to have been to give a pass to certain students for their behavior while they punish other students for the same behavior. So those types of boundaries can't happen. Those require boundaries. You cannot show as a teacher favoritism to one child and not the other. If there's a chance for leadership, for example, within the classroom, making the same child the leader all the time is going to cause problems between the students and also with the parents. So there are opportunities, certainly all the time, for positive connections. You know, many teachers who are cognitive and aware, they realize, let's say for preschool, elementary school, secondary school, and maybe even A levels, it's important for students to recognize their parents on Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays, those types of things. So some teachers might allow opportunities for students to create cards, for example. Likewise, parents could say, hey, it's Mother's Day. My child's teacher is a mother. I want to make sure that I'm saying Happy Mother's Day to the teacher. My child's teacher's birthday is coming up on December 12th. I want to maybe send a cupcake or an apple or something for that teacher. And so these are opportunities to show some love without taking it too far. One of the days that teachers would like for parents to at least acknowledge or recognize is Teacher Appreciation Day or International Day of the Teacher. Anything that sounds like that is an opportunity for a parent to say, hey, I recognize you, I see you, I appreciate you, happy Teacher's Day. So those types of things create positive connections. Again, what doesn't help? It doesn't help for a teacher or for a parent to be a screamer, a yeller, someone who makes a federal case out of every little thing. You know, so how can this be avoided? Both sides need to listen to the other side. Listen, don't battle. Listen, take the time to just sit quietly or listen quietly. Try to hear what the person is saying. Give the person an opportunity to talk. Give a person the opportunity to express what they're saying on both sides, on both sides. And if it can't be worked out, then maybe a facilitator is needed so that both sides can hear each other. The saying goes that you can get more with honey, you can catch more flies with honey than you can catch with vinegar. Sweeten it up. Even in a bad situation, something positive can be said. Work together to build a relationship. For many teachers and parents, a relationship is 1 year. 1 year. For that 1 year, maybe that teacher is the parent's best friend. The next year, there's a new best friend because there's a new teacher. And so the relationship can be at least for 1 year, a good positive relationship. Establish what works. If you know that you need to be talked to in a certain way, try to establish that up front so that there's no disrespect. And then if things can't be worked out, then the situation needs to be escalated to the proper authorities so that they can handle it. Okay, so in this day of emotional intelligence and social emotional behavior, there's a saying that's going around, and it's connect before you correct. And so teachers, certainly in the classroom, if they're correcting a child, if a teacher's correcting a child and there's no relationship with the child, there's no trust, then the teacher will not be able to correct that child. The same with parents and teachers. If there's no relationship, then when there's a situation that needs to be corrected, it becomes very contentious because there's no positive connection, nothing that was established up front. And so coming into the schoolhouse or a parent calling a teacher calling a parent only when there's a problem is going to be contentious. Teachers should call parents when there's good news, and teachers should call parents when there's something troubling. Parents should talk to teachers when there's good news, and parents should talk to teachers when something is troubling. There should never be a situation where either side does something out of spite or does something to get back at someone. It doesn't help. Transparency is needed at all times. If you see something, say something. If you know something is up, say something. If a child is doing this, say something. Communicate in a friendly way. But ultimately, it's the teacher's track record that matters. And it's the parent's track record that matters. It's performance over a period of time that matters. That's what says what the personality of the teacher is. That's what says what the personality of the parent is. It's performance over time. So communication, we know, in my experience, varies by level. If you look at parents of preschool students, they really want to be involved, very involved with the teacher's classroom, with the students' learning, with providing things that the child needs. The child has everything they need when they come to school in most cases. So we know that parents of preschool students want to communicate often. Lower elementary, parents want to communicate often. Who's my child's first level teacher, first grade level 1 teacher? What kind of relationship are we gonna have? All those things are important. As a child starts to get older, sometimes we see that the need to communicate is not as often. We do see that in years that are test years. For example, in my school system, year 7 is a testing year. It's also a year of transition, more a year of transition than testing. And so we expect that the parents will be more involved in that year. If students are going to A level, again, parents are involved in that first year of that program, maybe not the second year. So educators kind of know, like, when are parents most involved, and when does the trust happen? When does the parent trust the school enough to not have to call as often? but in all cases, parents are always listening to their child. Okay, so I know we're covering a lot, but I want to stay on task and stay focused. And so we have these parent-teacher meetings. So what would help with the communication for the parent-teacher meetings? One, if you're scheduled for a time slot, make sure you're on time. The teacher should be on time, which means if there's a parent who's in with the teacher before that next parent is scheduled to come in, the teacher needs to end that meeting and be ready for the next one. Parents should not show up late for a parent-teacher meeting, whether it's online or whether it's in person. You need to show up on time. Make the greeting, once you see each other, either virtually or in person, make the greeting short. You can't spend, if you're allowed 10 minutes for your parent-teacher conference, you can't spend 7 of the 10 minutes with small talk. Keep the greeting short and friendly, and then get into what you're there to talk about. You're there to talk about the child's performance. The teacher needs to be ready for the meeting with the grade book to be able to show the parent, this is your child's performance. These are the things that were graded. This is your child's behavior. Maybe there's a behavior chart that's on the wall. And so the parent should be able to see those things. Both sides need to listen to each other. If you're making a point, you should have evidence of the point. Bring the evidence with you. Teachers have evidence. If a teacher says your child is not performing up to his or her potential, the parents are going to say, okay, based on what? So if you can show that, hey, some analysis was done that shows behavior and drive and potential, your child has B level potential, but is only performing at a C, then there's evidence there to show. And then there's this method of communicating, the sandwich method. Say something nice in the beginning, get to the meat of what you need to say in the middle, and end the conference with something nice. So the sandwich method, say something nice, get to the meat of the conversation, say something nice. In this relationship, there should be no surprises. A parent shouldn't learn about a student's behavior on a report card or on a progress report. A parent shouldn't learn about something that they didn't know about at a parent-teacher meeting, a scheduled meeting that's on the calendar. The parent needs to know about these things ongoing, and it's a teacher's responsibility to keep the parent abreast of what's happening. So let's switch to, how do parents look at report cards? So a parent gets a progress report on a child, and most parents just kind of glance at it quickly to see if anything is out of order. And then most parents will look at the comment section. The comment section may say, your child's performance is great. Your child is a distraction in class. Your child's performance is dropping off. Your child loses his pens and paper. That comment section is very important. Sometimes it's more inflammatory than the actual scores. And so teachers need to be aware of what they write and how they write it, and it should be no surprise. Okay, and then parents will take a deeper look at the report card to see again, are there any exceptions? Are there any trends? Or is there anything that I need to be aware of? Is my child performing at the level that I think he or she can perform? So that report card is very important. It's an important part of the relationship. Okay, so there are times when a child needs to be corrected. Now we know that children are what we call ministers of information. Children, we talk about how parents talk, how teachers talk, children talk. So if there are any parents who are on this webinar, and know that when your child comes to school, they talk a lot. They talk, if the younger the child is, they talk about what's happening at home. If daddy's hitting mommy, the children will come to school and say it. If things are going great and it's like mommy's birthday, daddy's birthday, the child will say, hey, it's my mother's birthday, it's my brother's birthday. Did you know my father is a banker? So children are ministers of information. They talk, talk, talk. Good teachers have, the majority of what they do is what we call positive behavior intervention systems, PBIS. They, like in this graphic, they have something on the wall, particularly in elementary and preschool, and maybe even lower secondary school, that rewards positive behavior in the classroom, positive behavior on campus. At many schools, there's a wall that says, caught doing something nice, where students who do something nice for someone, their picture goes on the wall. All of this leads to creating a very positive environment in the school where students can flourish, teachers can teach, and parents can be happy. But if something goes wrong, all parents want to know that the consequences are appropriate for the behavior. Things should not be out of whack. If a child does something minor, there should be a teachable moment, you know, something that's needed to correct that situation. Again, there's some schools that flog and some schools that don't. In general, unless a parent gives the school permission, teachers should not put their hands on students. A teacher shouldn't hit a child with a ruler. A teacher shouldn't smack. A teacher shouldn't push. A teacher shouldn't taunt. And those are parent expectations unless the school has given permission for that to happen. Those things are very important to the relationship. All teachers have taken an oath to protect children. And so we all take child protection very, very seriously. We say that teachers, if teachers see something, they should say something. If a child comes to school with a bruise on his face or her face, if a child comes to school with a bruise on the arm, bruises on the leg, if a child comes to school who's normally happy and suddenly that child is depressed or sad or crying, the teacher will ask the child, are you okay? What's going on? And again, many children are ministers of information. They will say what's going on. If a teacher suspects that something is happening, the teacher is obligated to report it. So who do they report it to? Typically, they report it to their next person up in the seniority chain. So they report it to an assistant principal or a principal. So teachers are committed to child safety, committed. And parents should expect that when their child is in the custody of teachers, that the child will be safeguarded. Now, things do happen, accidents happen. A child may be on the playground and another child may push the child may fall and get hurt. A child may be sitting on a field and may get stung by a bee or insects. Things happen, but when they happen, how the teacher responds is important. If a teacher is nonchalant and has a hands-off attitude, of course, it's going to cause problems. And so teachers are committed to child protection. Parents are committed to child protection, and it binds us and bonds us together. So again, what do parents expect? Parents should expect teachers to teach. Parents should expect teachers to teach. Parents should expect teachers to know their child, particularly at this point in time, this point in the school year, for a teacher to not know your child's name, for a teacher to not know something about your child is wrong. So parents expect the teachers to know their child's name and to know something about that child. Parents expect teachers to teach correctly, whatever that means. But a parent has an intuition when something is not being taught correctly. Now, modern day teaching is different from teaching that a parent may have experienced. Math is taught differently. Some parents will say math is math. Well, math is taught differently. A child in level 1 might learn how to count by having a butterfly or a frog jump from one value to another. And so allow for a difference, but in general, teaching is sort of teaching. Parents may expect teachers to give extra lessons if a child is falling behind and to close the gap. Parents expect teachers to notice that there's a disorder, if anything's out of line. Many parents expect teachers to teach values. You know, is that a fair expectation? Yes. Yes, it's a fair expectation. But at the same time, the schoolhouse is not the church. But their values, and if you look at the school's core values, those are values. So teachers should be teaching those values. Most parents, all parents expect teachers to recognize their child, you know, to have the teacher see them and respect them as the parent. No parent wants to be disrespected. Okay, so there's some issues that parents will escalate. And so if there are consistent bad practices by a teacher, certainly a parent will escalate that to a vice principal or principal or head of school. If a teacher touches a parent's child, certainly that's going to be escalated. If a teacher disrespects the parent or disrespects the child, that will be escalated. If a teacher is consistently absent and not there, the parent will escalate it, and they should. If a teacher or if a classroom, if a school disrespects the parent's values, that will be escalated. So none of these things are a surprise. None of these things are a surprise. Okay, so again, what will a parent complain about? A parent will complain if the teacher doesn't know the child. Some parents will complain if the communication is not there. So a parent may find out from a child that the teacher disciplined the child, or there was a situation at school, maybe there was a fight at school or something happened at school, but the parent didn't call the teacher didn't call the parent. So the parent will say, well, why didn't you call me? Why do I have to find out from my child 3 days later? And so the communication wasn't there. Those things anger parents. If the teacher gets to the parent-teacher conference and finds out that the child missed a number of assignments and it wasn't communicated, those things are going to anger the parent. If a parent sends any type of message, a phone, tries to call a number of times on the phone, sends an email, sends a message to the child, and the teacher doesn't respond in a reasonable amount of time, it's going to cause problems. If the parent feels that for some reason the teacher is simply incompetent and can't teach, the parent will complain about it and has a right to. If a parent feels for any reason at all that the teacher has hurt his or her child, either verbally, mentally, or physically, the parent will complain about it. If a teacher disciplines a child unfairly, and maybe it's subjective, maybe it's objective, then the parent will complain about it. So we know all of these things, and a parent certainly has a right to do that. And so what would help to keep the positive relationship going? Because in the end, the positive relationship is what matters. And so when we look at things, sometimes there are people who have book smarts, but they don't have emotional intelligence. They have cognitive skills, but they don't have people skills, you know? And so ultimately it comes down to respect. How do you treat yourself? For both parents and for teachers, how do you treat yourself? And then how do you treat others? And so what do you do in the moment? How do you handle situations? Are you a person who can go from 0 to 100 in a second? Or are you calm and cool, but you still get your point across? Are you mindful of the things that are happening around you? When you speak, are you using manners? Are you using those 5 magic words, you know, thank you, you're welcome, you know, those types of things. I'm sorry. You know, are you aware? Is a teacher aware? Is a parent aware of the reality? And then what is the relationship? Again, remember that preacher in Maryland in the US, it's all about relationships. Well, it ain't about nothing. What is the relationship like? Okay, so I just want to digress for a minute and talk about an experience that I had with my daughter. So, you know, I went home one time to the great state of Maryland, and my daughter, who's now she's a clinical psychologist. So she's a provider of clinical help for people who need to talk. And by the way, you know, that business has taken off. There are many, many people who are seeking counseling. And by the way, within the schoolhouse, many students are seeking counseling from the counselor. Hopefully your school has a school counselor. It's very important. So my daughter took me on this mindfulness group meeting with her colleagues. And so we went to a body of water. And then there was a discussion that was led by a professional facilitator. And she talked about this concept of mindfulness. And, you know, I heard about it. I didn't really attach to it. And so she talked about what it is. It's being aware of everything that's in your environment. And I said, okay, cool. So then she said, okay, we're all going to get in these canoes and we're going to paddle down the stream. And she said, I want you to listen to the things that you hear in the environment. And so I got in the canoe with my daughter. It was a great daddy-daughter moment. You know, I loved it. And we started paddling down the creek. And so, you know, I was just thrilled to be with her. So we're talking and we're listening. We're talking, we're listening. And then we get to a certain point where all of the canoes, there are about 30 canoes, came together. And then the coach, the facilitator said, okay, what did you hear? And so people said, okay, coming down, I heard frogs. I heard birds chirping. I heard the trees swaying in the wind. And then other people said, I also heard people talking. And so we talked about, okay, how did that feel? It felt great. It felt good to be in nature, to realize that you're part of nature. It felt good. So then the facilitator said, okay, now we're going to paddle back up to our starting point. But on the way back up, nobody can talk. Nobody say anything. Nobody can say anything. So we started paddling back up. And guess what? We heard a lot more. We heard a lot more. You could hear little animals walking. You could hear all types of things that you couldn't hear when you were talking. And so when we got back onto the shore, onto the land, the person said, when were you most mindful? Were you most mindful when you were paddling down or on the way back? Everybody said that they heard more and they were more aware on the way back, which means that an important part of mindfulness is listening. Being in the moment, really taking everything in, understanding the interrelationship between everything. And sometimes it requires being quiet, being still, being mindful, being aware, knowing that you're part of this ecosystem, but you're only a part of it. You're not the whole system. And so with that is this concept of an environmental scan, being able to look at your environment, look at the times, and to understand what's happening in this time period. What are the components? How are people treating each other? What's the economy like? What's the school system like? How important is the school system to the economy, to the village? And then being aware enough to hear the sights and sounds, and then bringing it all together to have it make sense. Understanding what's being said, what's not being said, what is the body language? If you sit still and you say, okay, what's happening with technology? Are you aware that there are technology hubs that are popping up everywhere and that they're starting to connect to each other? All of this is part of mindfulness, and it gives us all a bigger picture that we can connect with. Okay, so I'm gonna go over this concept, and then maybe it's a good time to take a break. One important group is the PTA. Hopefully your school has a PTA. I find as a parent, also as a school administrator, as a teacher myself, I find that the PTA is invaluable. The PTA is there to support parents, teachers, the administration, and the students. It's kind of like a neutral, do-good entity that sometimes helps to resolve conflicts, many times has programs to bring people together to help build those relationships, creates projects, has celebrations. Our PTA has this thing called an ATCOM, the Activities Committee. They're the ones who are responsible for Father's Day and Mother's Day and Activities Day and the end of the year celebration for teachers. And so the PTA is certainly a very positive thing that helps with these relationships. And so before we take a break, I do want to talk about this. Something interesting happened at my school. So I mentioned we have 3 or 4 campuses. We have 4 campuses. And we had an open day. And so I want to talk about 3 of the 4 campuses. The campuses that have a higher population of students. So on 2 of the campuses, the open day was a 2-day thing. On 2 of the campuses, the campus offered on the first day of the 2 days, for the parents to be able to come in to meet with the teachers virtually. Okay, virtually only. The 3rd campus did not allow the virtual visitation for that first day. On the 2nd day, those first 2 campuses allowed for virtual visitation and physical visitation. This was recently. And so it was a celebration for many parents who had not been on the campus to be able to come onto the campus. The 3rd campus offered visitation virtually only. It was very interesting. What happened was the 3rd campus actually had more participation. Let me say it again. The 3rd campus, the one that was virtual only, actually had a higher percentage of parent participation than the campuses that had hybrid, virtual, physical, and also physical. And so one of the things we want to think about in terms of mindfulness and environmental scanning and all those things, what does this mean? What does it mean? What does it mean that more parents came in virtually? Let's say like 86% of the parents on a very large campus came in on that one day and were able to meet with their teachers, more than the campuses that did both. What does it say about the times that we're in? What does it say about relationships, et cetera? So I think that this may be a good time for a break. Hello?
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson. Thank you so much. You haven't disappointed us. I'm sure that the participants and attendees around the call have received value for their time. The comments around the call already show that indeed it's been a very educating and insightful session. Thank you so much. We'll let you grab a cup of water because there are some questions that I don't think you would be allowed to go away without answering. And while you take a break and rest your voice, thank you everybody around the call. Thank you so much for joining us today. We say in Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation, we say little drops, big changes. So by attending, you might think that you're not maybe paying some money into the account of the foundation, but you are supporting the mission and the vision of the foundation by making yourself available today. I'm going to launch the poll. It's just 2 questions. Please answer quickly so that we can get back to the Q&A without keeping everyone for too long. So I'm launching a poll. There are 2 questions. We just want to know how you heard about this program and if you knew about the foundation before today. So while the poll is on, I'm going to explain again how we can all compete for the prize, the star prize and the consolation prize. So before I go on to explain how we can all win today, on behalf of the trustees, on behalf of the chairman of the board of trustees, I want to again sincerely thank our sponsor of the Star Prize, Commodore Isa Abubakar Ahmed. He is the Director of Education of the Nigerian Navy, and he has kindly given us the 50,000 Naira Star Prize for today. We also want to acknowledge one of our trustees who donated the prize for the 5 winners. Thank you so much, Commodore Isa Abubakar Ahmed. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you for believing in the Rdsf vision. Thank you for supporting us to encourage teachers. Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation does not believe that the reward of teachers is in heaven. We believe that teachers can get their reward here on earth. And that's why we also have annual Teachers Excellence Award, where the foundation gives a financial prize to teachers who have been nominated for the award. Thank you so much. I will now check to see how far we have gone with the poll, and then we can go back to the Q&A. Thank you to everybody joining us from Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, whatever part of the world you're joining us from. The trustees are grateful that you have participated today. Thank you. Okay, we are just 51% done. Oh, sorry about the glitch. There's a third question that is not necessary. There is just 2 questions that we want you to answer. 68 people out of 129 have answered. We'll give it a few more minutes. Actually, I think we can, because of time. Dr. Wilson, sir, are you ready to take the questions? I think I'll leave the floor for a while. Yeah.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so it'll be maybe 2, and then we can get back to the presentation. Is that okay?
Oh, okay. You still have some slides. Okay, please go ahead.
Yes.
I thought you were. Okay. So I'll stop sharing so they can share.
Okay. Okay, do you see my screen thus far?
Yes.
Okay, we're good?
Your slides, yeah, well, okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so is it okay for me to commence?
Sorry?
Do you want me to go to start now?
Yes, please, go ahead so that we can take the questions.
Okay, I mentioned when I first started that, I wanted to take a look at what the future might look like. So I want us to take a look at this and then think about what it means. And think about, is it realistic? Is this where we're going? Again, I mentioned that Nigeria, for the most part, has gotten off pretty easy with COVID. We don't know what's coming behind it. So, we need to continue to progress. And we know that one of the things about life is that you can't really stop technology. Technology is a reality. And so take a look at this, see how it makes you feel.
As the digital and physical worlds come together, we are creating an entirely new platform layer, which is the metaverse. In a sense, the metaverse enables us to embed computing into the real world and to embed the real world into computing, bringing real presence to any digital space. What's most important is that we
Dr.
Dr. Wilson?
The
The
volume,
Yes.
the volume of the video is
Okay, let me
low.
see. Is that okay?
I think it's better.
Okay.
With colleagues, you can
Are you sharing sound? Did you share
Yeah,
your
hold
sound?
on. Let's see.
and have a shared.
I tell you what, you have a copy of the presentation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe yours is better than mine in terms of sound. If you can get to that point.
Okay, let me check it out.
You want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Let's see. So it should be towards the end of the presentation, maybe 5 slides left.
Okay.
As the digital and physical worlds come.
Is that what
I'm not seeing it.
Is that what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I hear it, but I don't see it.
You're not seeing it?
Yeah, I hear. Not seeing it. No.
Okay, let me try again.
Together. We are creating an entirely new platform layer, which is the metaverse. In a sense, the metaverse enables us to embed computing into the real world and to embed the real world into computing, bringing real presence to any digital space. What's most important is that we are able to bring our humanity with us and choose how we want to experience this world and who we want to interact with. It's no longer just looking at a camera view of a factory floor. You can be on the floor. It's no longer just video conferencing with colleagues. You can be with them in the same room. Mesh for Microsoft Teams will allow you to connect with presence and have a shared immersive experience directly in Teams.
We've also created an incredible immersive space that's now seamlessly accessible directly through Teams. Why don't we go check it out?
Here we are, Jason, and your avatar looks awesome. Something that I really like is how freely you can move around and have face-to-face conversations.
That's exactly right. We've held more than 100 team gatherings in these immersive spaces where people can connect, learn, and collaborate because they're truly in the same place together.
The solution has been a game changer for onboarding about 100,000 people a year. And like many organizations, onboarding has been remote for the past 18 months. So bringing our new hires into this immersive environment fosters immediate and deeper connections. It transcends physical boundaries and helps individuals experience a culture in a very personal way. Our new hires meet many more people and grow their professional network much faster.
In IT, we're thrilled how easily we could unlock Mesh's capabilities through Teams. The integration with Microsoft 365 makes everything feel familiar. But on top of that, spatial audio makes everything sound just like it would in person. And I love seeing and hearing our colleagues collaborating and whiteboarding and using this space.
Hey, hello.
Is that all, or you want me to?
Yeah, I think it cut off for some reason, but that's fine. I can take it from here.
Okay, so I should stop sharing.
No, if you could just go to the next slide, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, so if everyone can just read this for a second, please. Okay, so hopefully everyone had a chance to read that. So the video you just saw is of technology that's already here. This isn't a future technology. So Microsoft Mesh is a program that allows students and teachers to meet in cyberspace in virtual classrooms, and each person is required to have an avatar. And so students will create their own avatar. The parents would create an avatar. The teachers would have an avatar. The administrator would have an avatar. And you meet in this space. And so the classes would take place in this space. And that would be the way it is. So again, if something happens that's catastrophic, something worse than COVID, where, oh, someone's saying they can't hear me. Let's see. Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Claire.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. So if we have to go into this space, what's going to be important? You know, what will be important at that point? Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so what does this mean? So already I gave the example that the one campus had more visitors online than the campus that gave a choice of coming in or meeting online. And so, where are we going? What are we doing? Where are we going? What relationships will matter at that point? Right now, we're already developing virtual relationships. If you haven't been in the schoolhouse for a while, you haven't seen your teacher in a while, are you comfortable with that? Is the teacher comfortable with that? What if, in the future you can't come in? What's that going to be like? What will matter? What will matter are the book smarts of a teacher, but also, again, the emotional intelligence, being able to handle situations, being able to show personality, being able to be empathetic. So those relationships will become more and more important, more and more important. So those skills that are needed and we're seeing today are going to become even more important in the future. The relationship is going to be what matters. The ability to communicate will be what matters. There's another model of a school that I'm thinking about where students may only come to school for socialization. Maybe they come to school, let's say it's a public school system that maybe doesn't have the schoolhouse. So if right now the school may have a property that has a dilapidated building that students are meeting in. Maybe the idea is to tear the building down and build a football pitch or building for extracurricular activities where the students will do all their learning online, but they would come to school for sports and for extracurricular activities and clubs. Maybe that's a model that we'll see in the future. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so again, what will matter? The same thing that we talked about on this conversation will be what matters in the future. Our humanity matters. Our empathy matters. Our child-centeredness matters now and in the future. Our love matters. Next slide, please. So just a closing thought. Okay, if you can read this and gain an appreciation for it. This kind of keeps us in the moment, keeps us sane, tells us what it's all about. If you're missing someone, call them. If you want to meet up with someone, invite them. If you want to be understood, explain. If you have questions, ask the questions. If you don't like something, say it. If you like something, say it, state it. Make sure that people are celebrated. You know, it's so important. It's so important for someone to say, hey, teacher, I really like what you're doing. Hey, mom, I really like the fact that your child is coming to school prepared. Say it, it's so important. If you want something, ask for it. If it's reasonable, if it's reasonable, okay? And if you love someone, tell them. If you have a teacher who's working hard, if you have a parent who's working hard, tell them, hey, you know, I really love what you're doing. I appreciate you. All of those things will lead to the lasting positive relationships that matter and that will allow us to keep the children at the center of every decision that the school makes. The child is at the center. If money is going to be spent, the question is, how will this impact children? If a decision needs to be made, how does this impact the children? Everything is child-centered. All of the relationships are child-centered. And so I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak to you and to share some thoughts. And again, it's my argument that educators are the noblest of professions, and that teachers matter, and that parents matter, but none of us matter if we're not focused on students. That's what's going to allow us to keep the positive relationships. And it's our humanity that's going to help to fuel those relationships. Thank you.
Wow. All I can say, Dr. Wilson, is wow. Thank you so much. One of the trustees would take the vote of thanks down the road, but my excitement means that I cannot continue without saying thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson. There's so many questions, and I'm going to pray that the Holy Spirit will guide me to make sure that I pick the important ones. And ladies and gentlemen around the call, I want to thank everyone for participating. There's no question that is unimportant, but we are limited and constrained by the time that we have. You all have been with us now for over an hour and a half. Thank you so much for your patience. So if we don't answer a question today, I promise you I will get the answers from Dr. Wilson and I would email them to you. As a matter of fact, we will share the responses to everyone who has participated so that we can all be further educated. I'm going to start the questions right away, Dr. Wilson. They're very, some of them are very interesting. Some of them are very, funny. I want to start with a question from, please, just 1 minute.
See, while you're doing it, I want to thank everyone for the comments in the chat room. It's just very, very endearing, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I hope I will be able to give you a transcript of all the comments. I'm recording so that you can take a look down the road. I had to check because some people had posted questions with a trustee's name. I think a trustee's name was used to register a couple of participants. And I wanted to make sure that I was quoting the teacher or the person asking the question. So there's a participant called Jesu Leke Soluwalokwe Mata. Now I apologize, I did not use a title because I don't know if it's a Miss or Mrs. or a Mr. or an officer, so please pardon me. So the question is, please, I need you to throw light on this issue. As a public school educator, how do I help some students whose physical appearances show they are unkempt? And this is it's affecting their performance. Invitation letters have been sent to the parents, but the parents haven't shown up. Is the question clear,
thank
sir?
you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. So, in loco parentis means that when the children are with you, you're the parent. And so the amount of love that you show that child is important. And so, for example, if a child has body odor, then, if a teacher should have like a basket of toiletries, but allow that child to have dignity. Okay, so, in a quiet moment, the teacher can say, hey, take this cloth and this soap and this deodorant and just go in the restroom and wash up. Or I've seen some teachers who have a spare set of clothing. There are children who don't have facilities to wash their clothing. A teacher could lobby for resources or even provide resources. I mentioned that there's so many teachers who literally come out of their own pockets for so many things. In Baltimore, where I'm from, there are many schools that don't have. I was the principal of the major high school in Baltimore, and as a result of doing a good job, I was sent to a school to turn the school around. And so there were students in both schools, students in the privileged school and schools in the school that wasn't as privileged, who had serious body odors, had tattered clothing, clothing with stains on it. And so as the leader of the school, I had an extra closet where I had extra school uniforms that, if something was really bad, I would just simply have the teacher bring the student to me. And I would say, hey, I'm going to lend you a shirt for the day. I'm going to provide you with this soap. Go in the bathroom, just wash up. The child just wants dignity, but the child also doesn't want to be teased. So the child will respond to that amount of love. So I would say where you can provide. Don't wait for the parent to do it. If it's obvious that it's not going to happen, then you take charge, have some extra clothing, have some toiletries, be able to allow that child to have dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you so much. There's a question from Mrs. Fadike Mamus from the Nigerian Navy School, Port Harcourt. The question is, most schools, especially big schools, discourage interaction between parents and teachers. How can this promote good feedback?
Okay, yeah, I think I understand the question. I disagree totally with that as a practice. Schools should realize, and a lot of the big schools and smaller schools realize that when you have an opportunity to have that partnership, parent and teacher, that's the best that it can be. And so a wise school would encourage parent and teacher interaction. There are some schools that perhaps require parents to go through the administration. That's not a direct route. It's not direct. And so I would disagree with that philosophy. And again, I don't run every school. Every school is its own school. But I think that the wisdom is in allowing and fostering positive connections between parents and teachers. With all of the things that we talked about, certainly things should not get out of control. There shouldn't be any gift giving that's inappropriate. There shouldn't be any inappropriate telephone calls, etc. If it's all appropriate, it helps the child because the parent and the teacher have the same interests. And so I would hope and pray that those schools, that they're practicing that practice, would reconsider.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. The next question, well, it's funny to me, it may not be funny to you, but Mr. Talabi Omoni Julius from Zumratul Islamia Senior High School, Yaba, says, how can a teacher teach students who have interest of making money at heart rather than being educated?
Well, that student like me. I mean, ultimately, I'm an entrepreneur. You know, I have interest in making money, I'm a business person outside of being an educator. And so I would love that child. I would love to have that child in my class because there's so many teachable moments. Teaching is not about rote memory. It's not about understanding this definition, being able to say the definition, And so I think that a teacher should use that energy. And that's part of getting to know the student. So there's entrepreneurship, which is entrepreneurship within the institution, and there's entrepreneurship external. So an entrepreneur, a student who's interested in making money, to me, says that that student probably has a lot of leadership qualities. So I might get that child involved in student government, and as a student rep, I would probably have that child look at, starting some clubs within the school. That child can start an entrepreneurship club, an enterprise club. There are ways to really look at every student's talent and to value that talent. We should never, ever discourage that talent. Now, should a student bring things to school and sell? No, unless the school gives permission. So that cannot be tolerated, but we want to figure out ways to feed that spirit. In the end, that's the child who will probably become the billionaire who can give money back to the school. So someone told me they looked at like Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, Mike Tyson. And they said a bad teacher would tell Mike Tyson as a student to stop hitting people. A bad teacher would tell Michael Jordan to stop jumping. A bad teacher would tell Michael Jackson as a student to stop dancing. But when you say those things to a student, that's what their talent is. Figure out a way to use that talent. Maybe not the Mike Tyson talent. You don't want someone hitting, but to tell Michael Jordan, who's the greatest basketball player ever, as an 8-year-old student, stop jumping, you kill his dreams. Tell Michael Jackson, who probably is the greatest singer of all time, stop singing when he's in the 8th grade, you kill the dreams. So these entrepreneurial students, I would love to have them in my class. I would figure out ways to use those talents and leadership. Thank you. I can't hear you very well. It changed when you took your, yeah.
The battery, can you hear me?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, the battery just ran out. I'll ask the next question quickly and then get another earpiece. So I have one of patrons and sponsors and friends of the foundation, the distinguished accomplished officer, and he says, can you please speak to the issue of teachers, supervisor, and feedback mechanism, and the use of counselors to enhance the success of students? So the supervision of teachers, the feedback mechanism, and the use of counselors to enhance the success of the students.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Admiral Oriesa, for asking that question. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think the first question was the teacher-supervisor relationship. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, that's very, very important, particularly in these times. In these times, any school leader who's not listening to teachers, not allowing teachers to have their voice, that school's making a big mistake. Times are different. Times are different. People are leaving. They're voting with their feet. And so this is a time where everyone should have their voice. Teachers need to work on having the teacher's voice. If teachers are not happy about something, they should be able to talk to their supervisors about that thing, about whatever it is. Okay, I think the last part of the question was the use of counselors. Okay, in these times, I can tell you that children are stressed. Teachers are stressed. Parents are stressed. For our school counselors at our school, not only are they seeing the students in record numbers, They're also seeing teachers in record numbers, and they are also talking to parents in record numbers. This is a time when people need someone to talk to. Students are dealing with all kinds of things at home. They're dealing with all kinds of things in the social media. They're dealing with all types of things on the way to school, on the way back to school, and in school. Teenage children are dealing with body image issues. They're dealing with self-esteem issues. Young children are dealing with, does the teacher like me? Do my classmates like me? They're making fun of me, this, that, and the other. A counselor is really needed, in my opinion, in every school. And so for me, if I'm looking at a school's budget, one of the things that I'm gonna make sure that any school that I'm associated with has is a school counselor. And ideally, if it's a school that has multiple sections, multiple layers, you need an elementary school counselor, you need a secondary school counselor, etc. And believe me, that person will be very, very busy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson. We are running out of time because I promised, there's so many questions, Dr. Wilson, unbelievable, there's so many questions. Because we promised to not keep people more than 2 hours, I know I have your permission to say that we will get answers to all the questions. I'm going to come to you in private and get the answers to all the questions, and I will share with all the participants. But I want you to take one last question, sir, and then we'll go quick to Mrs. Oshikoya, our trustee, who is waiting to take the vote of thanks. Mr. Rashid Ademola says, how can we improve teachers' training in order to improve learners' academic performance? Training of teachers.
Okay, outstanding. Okay, let me give can I give a selfish plug? I'll give a selfish plug. So there are many, many groups, like Green Springs School has a body called the Green Springs Training College, GTC, where we provide teacher training. They're not only Green Springs, but there are other opportunities. There are opportunities on the internet for teachers to get trained. And the good thing about this period of time is a lot of the training is free or relatively affordable. And so I would look for those types of training. And then also within the schoolhouse, there's a lot of expertise. So teachers can actually train other teachers. As a school leader, one of the things that I would do is to survey my teachers to see what are their levels of expertise in things related to teaching and also things that are not related to teaching. And then set up some internal training, teachers teaching teachers, but also looking for those external training opportunities. And so I would encourage you to look at groups like, the Green Springs Training, the GTC. We just had something last weekend where we, I think there were about 100 teachers who came in and who received training. All teachers need training, all teachers. Everyone needs to stay refreshed. Whether the training is virtual or in person, all teachers need training. Again, if I'm allocating part of the budget, a good portion of the budget would go to training. All teachers need continuous training. Thank you. And let me just say that most training topics are also available online. And so I mentioned mindfulness, for example. You can go online and Google it. Emotional intelligence, Google it. There are many, many even presentations that are already there online. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Can you hear me?
No.
Oh, no. I need to disconnect my earpiece then. 1 minute.
Can you hear me now?
There's an echo there. You need to cut one of your devices off.
Hello, Dr. Wilson, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I'm going to give the floor to Mrs. Oshikoya now.
Good morning. It's just a minute left to the afternoon.
Can't hear you.
And I just like, sorry.
Yeah, it's just your volume is low.
Okay, I'll see.
Sounds better, like when you're leaning in.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now. My laptop
Yes,
is
ma'am.
actually,
We can hear you.
acting up. I had to borrow this. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, good morning, everyone. I'd just like to run through what we've learned today very quickly before I take the vote of thanks. And I'm not sure that I should take the vote of thanks just yet, Mrs. Komalafe, because of the other things that we did say we would do, but you'll advise me as I go along. So thank you, Mr. Wilson, for the knowledge that you disseminated this afternoon. I'm sure that a lot of teachers have gained quite a bit from all that you've talked about. We've all been part of the stress that has been going on in the nation. Thankfully, we've not been as badly affected, as you said, as many other places, but still we have our own challenges which have affected the quality of education and what we've been able to, what teachers have been able to give to their students. You said that teachers are in loco parentis, which is very correct. They act in the place of parents and their position is just as important, and I agree totally with you, as medical officers and law enforcement officers. You also said that teachers don't want to be overlooked and they want to be respected. This is very important because of the role that they have. I can't imagine why teachers will be disrespected given that they pour themselves out into children and ensure that their future is what it should be. And that's so important. You talked about a number of other things, but because of time, I'll just go straight to some of the solutions that you mentioned. That it's important to set boundaries, minimize negative talk, set boundaries also on, things like personal, emotional, mental, material, physical, and spiritual issues. There must be boundaries there, particularly because we need to establish in a country where we've had these kind of challenges, things like gifts and bribe taking, must be totally eradicated. We must create positive connections by celebrating special days, avoid conflicts by listening. And you said we should connect before we correct. Teachers must connect before they correct. I always say we, because honestly, I really wish I had been a teacher. I didn't choose, I feel that my calling is, teaching. And that's why I was very happy to join this foundation as a trustee to be involved in education. But because, Nigeria, they want you to do a profession and all kinds of other things, my parents steered me into other things. So when I say we, forgive me for usurping in your territory. Communication is very key in every relationship, and it's important that parents and teachers are, uphold this aspect of ensuring that the relationship is right. Reports are therefore important. You said we should also use the sandwich method in communicating things that are not necessarily palatable to parents, saying something good about the child and then saying the issue and then adding something good as well. Very important. Correcting children also is important, and being mindful of the fact that, teachers are child protectors at the end of the day. So how teachers handle child protection is very important. You also mentioned what parents expect from teachers to teach and to teach correctly, and also as much as possible to teach good values. You talked about so many things, including emotional intelligence and so on. The importance of PTA, the importance of open day. But the thing that really struck me And I'm sure will strike a lot of the people on this platform because of the fact that these things are very novel. They're new and they are not very commonplace in this environment. Is they talk about the future. Technology, of course, as we know, has come to stay, but the technology that is already available and that people are already having access to is incredible. And you said the technology is already here, Microsoft Mesh. I'm going to go and look at it in detail because you said that with it, people will be able to connect and have an immersive experience. That is so awesome. But the only thing that we probably would need to think about is how Nigerian teachers who do not have ready access to technology are going to be a part of this. But it's something that the foundation will have to think about as something that we will look into for perhaps our next annual lecture and so on and so forth. But amazingly, you ended on a note of simplicity with all the technology and all the complications and all that we had seen. And you said, don't complicate life. I think that is important. And it's something that we need to put down somewhere, maybe on a piece of paper or a cardboard or sticker, post it somewhere, that we can look at every day. Because that at the end of the day is what is important, not complicating life, telling people that you're appreciating them, telling them that you love them, and so on and so forth. So, Dr. Wilson, we'd just like to thank you very much for your time and for all that you've done, this morning, afternoon. We have been really blessed by the information and the knowledge that you have, given unto us this, today. And on behalf of the foundation, Bimbo, I trust that I can go ahead and thank.
Please go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to thank everyone present here, respected teachers and all participants. It's been such an honor to have you on the platform and to thank you on behalf of the Rdsf, the Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation, and on behalf of the Board of Trustees. I'd like to express my gratitude to all participants because without you, obviously, this would not make much sense, for your presence and your contribution to make this webinar a great success. And once again, I'd like to extend my gratitude to our guest speaker, Dr. Barney Wilson, who has taken out time from his busy schedule to grace the event and share his knowledge and experience to handle the topic of today. Thank you, sir, for informing us and inspiring us with your presentation. We're very grateful and we hope that we can ask you at short notice next time again to join us, and to come and share your reflections with us. I'd also like to thank the organizing team and volunteers for working hard in the past few days to make this webinar successful, and for the trustees who always come when we ask them to. I'm very grateful to all of you. And we would like to congratulate the teachers in advance. Those of you who are going to be winners of the prize, we thank you because we know that you are worth it. Teaching is a noble profession. And like my colleague said, your reward is not in heaven. It must be here on earth, and we will do everything in our power to ensure that that is possible. Thank you once again. We're very grateful for making this a great success. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Oshikoya. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I changed my earpiece. Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Oshikoya. The foundation does not take your support and your kind experience for granted. Thank you for all you've been doing for the foundation, and thank you for being available today. I'm going to share my screen quickly for the participants that are still around the call. I want to explain again how we are going to do the selection of the winners. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I see that you're taking your camera off. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. And for all my teachers who are out there, I love you. Keep doing what you're doing. For all the parents, please love our teachers. We need love. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. So I'm going to just quickly share again how our participants, attendees, parents or teachers, I hope the teachers win around the call. Just going to quickly, okay. So we would like you to send us an email with evidence of your completing the survey. As soon as we finish this webinar, a survey will pop up and you would be able to complete the survey. Of course, we have records of those that have registered, and we would also check those that stay to the end of the program. But the last thing that you need to do, follow us online, follow the Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation on Instagram, on Facebook, and then send us an email saying that you have followed us. And perhaps you want to be above others, maybe send us a short note of what you have benefited from today's program. We are going to allocate points to these four requirements, and the fifth one of what you have gained from the webinar. Once again, we want to thank the sponsor of the prize, Commodore Ahmed. We want to thank him very much for supporting us, not only the prize, even for all that he has done for the foundation and that he's doing for the foundation. I want to also thank Mr. Chairman, the Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Rear Admiral Oladendi Joseph. Thank you, sir, for steering the trustees in the right direction. Thank you to all the trustees that have joined from their locations. Pharmacist and Mrs. Igbokwe, thank you very much for joining us. I know the time is not, it's very early in the morning for you, but you still joined in. I'm going to leave the video on now, but this program has officially closed, but we can still interact through the chat column. If you have questions, please ask. I will take them all back to Dr. Wilson and we'll get you answers. Thank you so much.
The Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation, Rdsf, is a non-profit, non-partisan, and non-governmental organization that engages in charity activities to advance the social and economic well-being of the less privileged through the promotion of sustainable education, mentoring, and skills acquisition. The foundation, founded in 2009, has consistently supported indigent students to achieve their dreams of being educated. The foundation has awarded scholarships to over 160 beneficiaries in over 40 tertiary institutions across Nigeria, and has also assisted 192 young people to develop themselves through skills acquisition and the mentoring program. The foundation has also, within the last few months, increased its commitment to human capacity development and mentoring by organizing more regional scholarships. The Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation, Rdsf, is a non-profit, non-partisan, and non-governmental organization that engages in charity activities to advance the social and economic well-being of the less privileged through the promotion of sustainable education, mentoring, and skills acquisition. The foundation, founded in 2009, has consistently supported indigent students to achieve their dreams of being educated. The foundation has awarded scholarships to over 160 beneficiaries in over 40 tertiary institutions across Nigeria, and has also assisted 192 young people to develop themselves through skills acquisition and the mentoring program. The foundation has also within the last few months increased its commitment to human capacity development and mentoring by organizing more regional scholarships and soft skills training outside Lagos. The organization has celebrated series of testimonies. In 2016 alone, 6 of the RDSF beneficiaries graduated with a first-class distinction. Some RDSF beneficiaries have also become breadwinners, able to assist others to obtain basic education. Some have also become independent in sponsoring themselves to acquire further degrees and professional certifications both at home and abroad.
Hello, Rehoboth Foundation is God sent, not just to me, but also to the world. I could remember 6 years ago when I got an admission to study accounting at the University of Lagos. Confused because I didn't know how to meet up with the school fees and all. But at the edge of giving it all up, Rehoboth Foundation came true for me, and today I'm an accounting graduate. I'm really grateful, and I want to say thank you to Rehoboth, and may God bless the work that you do.
My name is Dr. Sandra. I'm from the Federal University of Technology, Akure. I just want to use this medium to say a big thank you to Rehoboth Solid Foundation as a beneficiary for sponsoring me throughout my time in school.
Senyanga Billy from Kwai State, Faculty of Law, University of Jos. I thank Rehoboth Solid Foundation for supporting me for 3 years now. I finished my law degree. I still expect his support for my law school.
I got support from the foundation from my 400 level, critical level, through to my 600 level. I'm very grateful and I'm thankful for all their support throughout my stay in school.
Once said that in vain we attempt to build a nation if we do not first build the people. It is common knowledge that the most important resource anywhere in the world is people, human resource. The Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation is doing a great work which I have benefited from. The vision and mission of the Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation, from what I know, are built on that philosophy, that truth, that the most important resource anywhere in the world is people, human resource. Every kind of support should be given to them to continue this great work. Thank you, the Rehoboth Dream Solid Foundation.
It has made it easier and possible for me to achieve my dream of becoming medical doctor. May God continue to reward the trustees abundantly.
My name is Obulaye Makonjola, and I'm a PhD student at Southern Methodist University in the United States. I think Rehoboth Dream Studies Foundation is doing an amazing job in helping youth in the nation to achieve their dreams and to fulfill their potentials. And they're doing it in a very unique and strategic way by meeting people at the very point of their need and putting them on a place, on a path of realization of their dreams. When I was in University of Lagos, there was a point in which I had intense need for financial support, and Rehoboth was there for me at that point. And they believed in me, they believed in my dreams, they believed that I could be somebody in life. And it is rare these days to see something like that, to see that kind of disposition. Essentially, I think the foundation is doing an important life-transforming work, and I am really inspired that they have remained persevering and unrelenting towards this cause.
In 2018, RDSF celebrated the call to bar of 2 of its beneficiaries, one of which was Bar Profsen Okemute. Barrister Prosper's dream was to beat the odds, as she is fully hearing impaired. The foundation expanded its scope of operation 2016 by visiting various tertiary institutions in the country to partner with them to identify and sponsor indigent students. Thinking Aloud magazine. In March 2018, the foundation launched the Thinking Aloud magazine, an educative, entertaining, and informative quarterly publication that covers various life issues, through which we disseminate information to improve social values. Rdsf Annual Lecture Series. In August 2018, the foundation organized the maiden edition of its annual lecture series to provide a platform to harness expert opinions from relevant stakeholders on modalities and strategies for improving the quality of education in Nigeria. The foundation also initiated an annual Teachers Excellence Award to recognize teachers who have distilled the spirit of excellence in impartation of knowledge in public secondary schools across the nation.
They have done wonderful.
So much to me. Number one, because I've been recognized for my good work. That's motivation. And number two, it's going to encourage other teachers.
Both mentoring in all aspects, they were there for me. In fact, if not by the grace of God and by their help, I would have been where I am today. In fact, I don't just know what else to say than to say, Rehoboth, thank you and thank you very much. May God continually to bless you.
Rehoboth's dream did more for my brother, my younger brother, who is in OAU right now. And thanks to Rehoboth's dream, he's able to go to school.
You guys are the best. You guys are really the best. You guys supported me even when you did not even meet me.
Rehoboth. And Rehoboth really helped me because even when I never expected it, they are always there to fund me, even right from my 200 level. They funded my finances.
Foundation is doing a very great job. First of all, the foundation was found out of a heart of passion and an interest to see young people succeed.
To find out more, please visit our website, www.rehobothdreamsolidfoundation.org. For more testimonies and steers on how to partner with us, you can also follow us on our social media handles, Twitter @DreamRehoboth and Instagram @RehobothDreamSolidFoundation. You can also find us on Facebook and LinkedIn @RehobothDreamSolidFoundation. If you have a barcode reader, please scan this and be redirected directly to the RDSF website.